Appalachia. It is a region known for its natural beauty, thanks to its rugged terrain and lush forests. However, Appalachia is also known as a region of widespread poverty. This was brought to the nation's attention when President Lyndon B. Johnson visited the region in the 1960s to kickstart his war on poverty. The iconic image from that visit is the president sitting on the front porch with the Fletcher family. According to the LBJ Presidential Library, Patriarch Tom Fletcher was an unemployed sawmill worker who had supported his wife and 8 children the previous year with a $400 salary. He was emblematic of a region without enough jobs to support its population. This is the Fletcher home today, much the same except for a coat of paint and some fencing. That seems a fitting image for a region which itself has changed, thanks to nearly a half-century of investment by the federal government, but still struggles with poverty and other problems. The question then is what needs to be done today in order to finish the job by the year 2050.
Well, to me, and I think the future of this area obviously is not going to be coal mining any longer. And I think we got to focus more on tourism and ecotourism, adventure tourism, things of that nature, because we have all of the everything that is necessary in place here.
I think that it comes down to really 3 things, 3 areas. The first is education, the second is healthcare, and the third is environment.
We need to find ways, and there's a grant I looked at a while ago that I think I'm going to work on that will encourage economic development on that level for the small business, maybe a revolving loan fund or something like that. In the grant I saw $10,000 to $20,000 of revolving money that we could incubate here, maybe. Right. And I think I've got to look at it closer, but I think that we got to do stuff like that, Ralph. I really don't believe that we can wait here on coal to make its big comeback again. It might, and if it does, that'd be really good. But if it don't, we need to have some things that are in place that allow our folks to have decent jobs and the opportunity to shop local and that kind of stuff.
You know, a lot of times there is the sense that we're not going to get out of this unless somebody comes in and helps us out of it. I don't believe that's true. I believe we have to find a way out of this economic situation, and that we can do that, and that we have to think outside the box.
But I think, no, we're not doing enough regionally. No, we're not doing enough to foster entrepreneurship. We've got the programs there, I believe, but what we don't have is the institutional support, sort of the soft support, to encourage people to think about entrepreneurship.
We live in the most beautiful, diverse, deciduous forest on the planet. And how in the world our educational system does not put the seed in our young people's mind how fortunate and blessed we are to live here, and that we need to protect, preserve, and love our area. It's not to be exploited. It's not to be a place where big business, big corporations, or should I say robber barons, come in and exploit what we have here.
It seems there's no shortage of answers to Appalachia's challenges, maybe too many. Perhaps that is because the region finds itself searching for answers at a time when coal mining, its primary industry for the past century, appears to be in the midst of a long-term decline, leaving many looking for something else to replace it. Maybe then there are lessons to be learned from the past.
We have existed prior to the discovery of coal in Appalachia. My family goes back 200 years in here. They came in after the War of 1812 with land that was given to them as a gratuity for serving the country. They came in and they lived for 100 years without the coal industry. They would sell their trees and to pay the taxes. Everything they needed, they could make. So Appalachian people are some of the most self-sufficient, proud people that's ever graced the planet.
I was there when Wheelwright was the best place to be, I think, in eastern Kentucky.
Yeah.
We had the golf course, we had the bowling alley. My mother ran the beauty shop within town there, and it was right by the library. We had good clothing stores.
A movie theater too.
Had 2 theaters up there, one at the Junction and one at Wheelwright, and we could watch a movie just about every night of the week.
The town was full of businesses. We had 4 pool rooms, 5 restaurants, 3 or 4 stores, 1 dentist, 1 doctor. The gas, Columbia Gas had an office in Inez. You had the courthouse offices and a very limited number of state employees, but you had lots of little gas stations, all of which employed people, all of which, and a lot of little country stores, all of which, because there was no Walmart sucking the life out of them, made good livings for those families.
On 66, when that was, I think, July, or my memory is not as good about that date. I remember the year because it was pretty important. That was the year I graduated high school. It was the year the change came. It went fairly quickly in 2 or 3 years.
If you go to Inez, it's hollowed out. It's a town that's soon going to have 3 public buildings, 3 courthouses, as it were, and no downtown. Mostly because one person owns all of downtown and he's saving it for some sort of project that he's not revealed yet.
My grandparents probably did a better job of educating us by taking us to Weeksbury, which was the older camp, and pointing out how rough Weeksbury looked, and they said, it'll be this way in Wheelwright one day, and we said, no, it won't. Wheelwright will never drop down. But that was my mother's parents. They had lived in Hellier, there in Pike County, and then they'd come to Weeksbury, and then they moved on around to Wheelwright. And they were business people. They didn't do coal mine stuff. They ran little grocery stores or restaurants. And my granddad was a barber, and usually had a barber shop. And so they were right. That's exactly right. That what happened.
We got to get our head out of the sand because the coal industry is not going to save us. It's going to destroy us.
The coal business has left a veneer of that essentially makes the county appear, by looking at some of the homes, much better off than it was. The coal boom in the meantime has come and basically gone. The population is probably less than what it was at the time, but at the time families were bigger, and there was less out migration, I guess, or those folks who had migrated out had already left.
You can't go back, and that's the problem. Rose Brothers in Breathitt County, will always be a very small business. I don't know to what extent they lost their market share to Walmart, but those type businesses lost out to the Walmarts of the area, and that's why that they're decimated. Is the Walmarts and the big stores, which I have nothing against. They offer a service and they sell products cheaper, and so that's good for the consumers. I think we have to create something new.
I see Prestonsburg at a point about where Wheel Route was when I was growing up there. I think it's a nice, wonderful community. You got a community spirit here, obviously. You got people that want to keep this stuff going.
But you can't roll the clock back. Instead, you've got to look at new opportunities and new ways to bring in this generation's business. And that's what entrepreneurship is about. It's about seeing that new market opportunity and grasping for it and actually succeeding in fixing your grip on it. I think that's what we've got to do.
But this economy, as I see it, has absolutely turned around to it's very service oriented. I think even if coal makes much of a comeback, that number of jobs is not going to be what they once were.
Right.
The pay will be good, of course, but I think I see some of the signs that our community could decline because of the lack of really good jobs.
We need to stand up and look in a different direction. Look in the direction of self-sufficiency. Let's recreate Eastern Kentucky as a beacon of hope, a beacon of people who took a hold of the bull and turned it in the way of a place that our children want to remain in. That I'm proud to be from Eastern Kentucky. Let's get rid of these stereotypes of lazy hillbillies who sit around and just wait on their entitlement check.
In discussing economic development with Appalachian residents, several common themes quickly emerge. One of the most prevalent is a belief that growth requires support for small business and entrepreneurship.
We've got to have a new economic development paradigm. The chasing smokestacks has worked, I guess, to a certain extent in years gone by, but it's certainly not working anymore.
Where have we chased smokestacks here? Where have we chased smokestacks here other than in Louisiana? What are we chasing after? I mean, Paul, a number of these counties have built these industrial parks hoping to find some folks. And, I think we've cleared too many mountains expecting something to be on them. And a few, like Stonecrest, have developed. Very few Stonecrests in eastern Kentucky.
It's been mostly focused on smokestacks. That's where the energy is. Now, I don't know if that necessarily means, if that translates into no support or a lack of support for entrepreneurs, but it certainly means that our efforts are divided, and I don't think we're all playing from the same page. If we were playing on the same page, we'd be able to reach these folks at a deeper level, I guess.
My thinking for Prestonsburg anyway is that success looks like the signs that we see coming into town: a good place to live, work, and raise your children, play, and that if we can determine that is going on, and I think it is somewhat right now. We got some, people interested in the community. Then that would be our success. It's not moving from 4,000 people to 8,000 people, because I don't know that we could handle that kind of growth. Right. And it's not having some huge business come in and build a big factory. It's having a community where people enjoy calling it home, proud of our parks and proud of the things that we have to do in town, and seeing that they can be a responsible citizen in this community by doing some of these things that need to be done by the residents. For example, people who would fully support the farmers market that's going to go on here. I really want to encourage. We've encouraged that already. I want to encourage it more. I think a good farmers market gives you a great identity.
The political system is set up that way. It's if you're mayor of Painesville, you want to get a company to come in. It's much it's much bigger opportunity to do that. But I think that at the same time, we have to be realistic, and you're just not going to get very many factories to come in.
But, you know, with coal and with just the overall economic issues, we're going to have to find ways to move it ahead, and we're probably not going to bring in a Toyota or a Saturn plant or anything like that. We're probably going to have to do it by encouraging, first of all, the businesses we have to stay and help it make it easier for them, and then to attract smaller but, you know, job-oriented businesses outside the service industry.
I think another thing that we will see if we're successful is a proliferation of small businesses. We'll see a much greater emphasis on small, innovative firms, and whether that's similar to the Red River zip line up in Wolfe County, or the small restaurants that you see that are starting to pop up in the area here, barbecue restaurant in the Hazard. I think that in order to be successful, if you come back in 2050 and you see a successful community, it will be one that's used tourism heavily, that's kind of focused on our identity as much as possible. It's used entrepreneurship to make those businesses first they have to be innovative, and then they have to be successful.
But I don't know that we've encouraged enough of it. I think we don't have as much news about a good place to do business as we do, you know, other things.
Tourism is another topic that comes up frequently when discussing Appalachian development, but there seems to be less agreement over how much of an impact it can have.
Roll out the red carpet to people who want to come here because of the natural beauty, because of the ruggedness. So I think we do have to be true to ourselves. We can't just become like a Richard, Florida type community. You know, we need to retain we're going to retain our rural focus. And so we might as well make it a virtue and not a vice.
I think we've made some progress. However, the progress that I've seen is not in the area of ecotourism or adventure tourism. It's been more so based on country music, and that's about it. And which is great. That's a good thing, and we need to keep going with that. But we have so much more to offer. We have so many other facilities here that aren't being utilized, that would bring more people into the area, that would change the look of the area. I think it would change the attitudes of the people that live in this area.
Tourism and economic development are kind of side by side. Tourism can help create economic development if it's positive. I think tourism is pretty important. It's not going to recruit, like I said, the big businesses, and neither are we. But it's going to reaffirm the fact that it's a good place to live. Right. A good place to live.
When I talk to other people and they ask me where I'm from, say I'm at a bike race in South Carolina, and I tell them where I came from to race my bike. They say, "Oh, I'd really like to see that part of the country. I bet it's beautiful there." I say, "Yes, it certainly is." And I invite them, and I've actually brought some people in here just to ride their bicycle or to kayak.
I think another thing that we have to do is we have to look at ourselves differently. We are not going to be a Pigeon Forge or a Gatlinburg. We just don't have that area the geography is more conducive to that. It's a little more open. Even though you get into the mountains, the access is much better. You're closer to, your population is a little better educated, and you can pull from Knoxville, you can pull from a lot of places in East Tennessee, and we're just not going to be a Gatlinburg. We have to think differently, and I think that's part of the problem is we look for models and we look for big solutions whether it's an interstate, the coal industry, a tourism industry. And you know, I think we need a little more rigorous focus on what we are, and I don't think we've done that well.
You know, let's stand proud and show the world, like Coal Quit Georgia, that each of our communities can grasp a concept, and we, in this beautiful environment we live in, can become a tourist mecca.
We have resources here that are not being used. For instance, Dewey Lake. It's basically used for fishing, or skis, or jet skis. There's a small number of people, myself included, who use it for kayaking, and paddleboarding, and mountain biking, and hiking, and trail running. But there aren't enough of us doing those things. And there are no official trails. As a matter of fact, we're trespassing when we do these things. And I'd like to see that change.
Tourism will bring people in and give them a taste of what you got. And you never know which person in that group might want to come back and just live here.
For instance, the new rail trail, the Dawkins Rail Line, Dawkins Rail Trail, I think they're going to call it. I think that will change the face of Eastern Kentucky when it's finally up and running and the community has accepted it. They're going to see that people can use this as a form of transportation, a form of exercise, a form of recreation, safe for themselves and for their children. And I think that will draw so many people to the area, and that will change the attitudes and educate the people that are in the area to the possibilities. And that's just one example.
I always think of a couple of things. I think of the old Andy Griffith story where the guy reads about Mayberry, and he heard it from one of his war buddies, and he reads about, he subscribes to the Mayberry paper. And so he reads it for a couple of years, and he decides, I want to live there. And he goes into Mayberry and starts buying some property and stuff like that. People get real paranoid about him, and they're ready to run him out of town till he finally tells them. Even Andy didn't know until when he told Andy, he got the message. And yeah, another example, I was at Buckhorn. Buckhorn's a lot smaller, little old village, you know. When I was working for the Children's Center, though, when we had a guy whom we interviewed for a chief financial officer, and we hired him, and he came back there and interviewed because he enjoyed staying at Buckhorn State Park, and he just really liked the area. Yeah. So if your area is attractive to people, it can bring business back in.
Despite progress in bringing the poverty rate down, Appalachia still has a disproportionate number of people living in poverty compared to the rest of the nation.
I want to say, let's start off with that war on poverty. As I think you know, on April 24th, 1964, President Johnson came here to Eastern Kentucky, visited Inez, visited Paintsville, and that's something that I want to key on because there's where we have the missing link. What every single person remembers about that visit to Eastern Kentucky is Lyndon Johnson sitting on the porch of Tom Fletcher. There's Tom Fletcher with God knows how many children, 8 children, whatever. He's got chickens on his porch. He's an unemployed sawmill worker. And then Lee Mueller and a lot of other reporters went back 25 years later, and where was Tom Fletcher? Well, he was still on his front porch. He was still unemployed, and he still had 136 kids running around the house and on public assistance. That's very deceiving because it makes it look like the war on poverty was not successful or that the war on poverty didn't have some strong points to it.
I've never really subscribed to the fact that people just wanted to lay around all day. I mean, and live on food stamps. You tell me how you can, I don't think how you can live on food stamps or $200 a month or $300 with 2 kids.
You do have kind of a hardcore group of folks who, and they're good people. I'm not talking about them being the wrong sort of person. I think their way of life has always been some sort of entitlement that comes into the family, and that they don't necessarily have an opportunity to get a good job or make a lot of money. So this will pay the bills, and we get it. I think you have to create some jobs, even if they're, $10, $10.50 an hour jobs. Mm-hmm. Something that makes it advantageous for the person to work and get benefits. And you have to give them a plus for that as well, that they, you're part of the working population. So, we appreciate that, and we give you, some extras.
We've certainly improved, nutrition level and health care. From what I've read, that was an issue. Starvation, not starvation, but certainly hunger was a real issue. I'm sure that health care was a real issue, so we've improved that. I think those are a couple of areas that we've done well. We've improved the material well-being of those folks that are the most impoverished. I think what we've not been able to do is take those people who are most impoverished and create a lot of success for them, maybe to help them break the cycle. I don't think we've done that very well.
And I think one of the problems we have in our state and other states is they want to keep cutting these kinds of programs. You want to cut programs for child care when those women are working. And so you're cutting off your nose to spite your face. You're doing this cut stuff that we're living through today.
I mean, we have 2 or 3 generations here of welfare. There's probably people out here right now, and I don't know this, but it seems to be true. People who have never worked, don't have to work, their parents didn't work. And it's possible that their grandparents didn't work, or at least not very long. And again, we have these people here, and they could be productive.
I think that aid to poor has, like I said, it's certainly improved their material well-being. It's certainly improved their health levels, assuming you don't have to subtract off some of the other issues, obesity and the drug epidemic. But I think that's one of the biggest challenges that we face is how do you actually break that poverty cycle? And I think maybe to that extent we've actually created a lot of long-term poverty.
We do see, I think, in many parts of Appalachia, there's a little more of a forgiving attitude to some extent, but not as much as there ought to be. I mean, you talk to people every day and they say these are welfare cheats, or people want to, like everybody who's not working is on welfare. Well, they're not on welfare. I mean, we don't have welfare for folks who don't have kids. I mean, you can be a 20-year-old young man looking for work, of which there are plenty of people, and there are no support systems. There are no support systems for kids when they turn 18 after they're out of foster care. We just say, go out there and make it your own way. I mean, they just tell you, here, you're now no longer.
You've aged out.
You've aged out.
We're in our 3rd generation of intolerance. So many people have given up. They feel that, we'll just get on the draw and we'll, we deserve to be taken care of because we have been so exploited.
I know people, and you know people. I've grown up with them, and I've grown up in Leslie County and Clay. I practiced law in Laurel, and then I moved to Wolfe County and got very involved in that community. So, I know these people that do not have the ability to work at McDonald's.
So we have to devise adequate systems and recognize that some people are going to be poor despite their best efforts for periods of time. I mean, it's going to happen. And I think we owe it as a society to try to give those people the kinds of supports that they need. And then hopefully they'll be able to, again, be in a position to be productive folks and get jobs down the line. In some cases, in many cases it works. I mean, we see the stories of people who were in Gene's program, and you see them on TV, and folks that have gone into rehabilitation of various sorts, and that they do want to work.
Helping people that need help is one thing. But instead of giving them something without asking them to pay anything back, that doesn't fix the problem. As a matter of fact, it perpetuates the problem.
I don't remember Lyndon Johnson making any significant speech while he's on the porch of Tom Fletcher. You talk with Tom Fletcher. I don't remember Lyndon Johnson making any significant speech in Inez. Or where did he make a significant speech? He went to Paintsville after, which is really interesting because he was in a helicopter, flew to the Burt Combs Airport. Had he gone 6.5 miles to Prestonsburg, he would have been in the heart of one of the most democratic counties in the state. But instead, where did he go? He went 6.5 miles to Paintsville. Why? He wanted to visit the Mayo Technical School. Why? George Ramey was there. George Ramey was a top advisor to all of the federal agencies throughout the country and to Congressman Carl D. Perkins about vocational training. Mayo was a leader in vocational training in 1964, flat out. And what was President Johnson trying to do? He wasn't trying to keep people on welfare. His aim of the war on poverty was to put people to work. And he understood, as we should understand, that training is the key to getting people to work.
Professor Majasic believes that there is a solution to chronic Appalachian poverty, one that involves reworking college bureaucracies and making a commitment to technical education.
My point is that we need to think a lot bigger. And if 29% of the population of the United States has a bachelor's degree, and Eastern Kentucky moves up to, say, 15 or 16%, says, okay, boy, we've made great progress, come and locate your business here, it's not going to happen. Right. It's not going to happen. So we need to think bigger, and we need to think bigger in a way that gets rid of some of the boxes we have put ourselves in.
I don't know. I'm sure there are different people have different thoughts about how you organize the higher education system in this area. The community college system, obviously, in many ways, has been really successful, I think, in trying to get folks in, like the Cole Academy and the dental programs.
I think that Paul Patton, as he was trying to get the University of Pikeville to be a four-year institution within our state system, made a pretty compelling argument that one of the reasons Eastern Kentucky lags behind is we just do not have the level of education in the rest of the country. One of the reasons that commission who studied whether or not U-Pike should become a state institution, and they determined it should not, it wasn't worth the investment, is because it would only move us from Pike County, I guess it was a little over 10% of the population had a bachelor's degree. I think in some of the counties like Floyd County, Johnson County, it's more like 12, 13%. And they said it would only move Eastern Kentucky up to about 15%.
Eastern Kentucky University in Richmond, that's not Eastern Kentucky. We have always got the short end of the stick. Always.
If I'm looking at a service area that has less than 15% of its population with a bachelor's degree, if I'm looking at a service area where most people don't have technical training who are not seeking a college degree, I shouldn't be saying, well, if we bring U-Pike into the state system, it's going to take students away from me. I should be thinking, how the heck should we move Eastern Kentucky from a point of having 13% of the population with a bachelor's degree to getting it at least to the national average, which is 29%? That's a huge task. There's plenty of potential students for everybody, including us.
People from here who want a higher level education can get it, and they can stay here while they're getting it, but then they can't stay here and work. Okay.
As you're looking at U-Pike, as you're perhaps coming into the state system, that might be the niche it can fill, and it won't be stepping on Moorhead's toes, because Moorhead tends to be geared more towards education and social work and social services. So here's this big gap, and we're sitting in what? We're sitting in coal fields. We're sitting in an area that's also extracting a lot of natural gas. We're sitting in an area that is timber producing area in eastern Kentucky. And what don't we have here? We don't have a university that deals with any of that stuff. And that's a big gap. So if we want to move forward, if we want to do more than mineral extraction, then we have to look to these things as we are educating our young people.
But I'd like to see the data behind it. It does sound good in theory. I'm sure the experts can give you 20 reasons why it would be a great idea, and another set of experts 20 reasons why it won't. I think the whole issue of dividing the public coffers is, that's what we're stuck on, and it's a zero-sum game to a certain extent.
Much of the research going on today on clean coal technology especially is in China. I mean, they know they have a terrible problem with air pollution, and they're using more coal than any other country in the world. And so they're not importing and exporting, but they're also spending a huge amount of money on research. Whether if it were in Pikeville, certainly would help. At the University of Pikeville, the more of those resources you could bring in there, the better.
If you look up in Massachusetts, why is it that Boston has become a hub for research and development, a hub in the field of computers and innovation there? It's because MIT is there. I mean, Harvard's there. Harvard's a great school, but MIT is there. That's why Massachusetts has such a tech edge. If you look in California, Caltech is one of the leading institutions in the country. Where is it? Well, it's in that area in Silicon Valley. And what's happened there? What doesn't Kentucky have? We're one of the few states that does not have a university that is dedicated to technology. There is no Kentucky Technical University.
If you actually bring them into a school that's here for that 4 to 6 years, then they might be more likely to stay, because the school would help them make some connections. So in a way, I've kind of changed my opinion a little bit on that one. Although I still don't think we need to drop a bunch of money into UPAC. We've got too many other good schools that need it as well.
I certainly think it'd be a boom for the Pikeville area to have a university, but now, like I said, it's going to be to the detriment of other folks.
You know, I don't want UPike to steal students from Moorhead. I want Moorhead to create a situation where they're offering programs and they're offering classes to a broader array of students in education, in business, and several other areas like social work. I want UPike in the state system, and I want them to pick up the slack that Moorhead's not picking up, like these technical programs I've been speaking of, where we could actually be designing equipment, we could actually be designing things that would allow our economy to move forward and move forward rapidly, that would create employment here in the long term.
While many issues have been addressed by the war on poverty, another problem is on the rise. The health of Appalachia is plummeting, with the region seeing rates of obesity, heart disease, diabetes, cancer, and other ailments both higher than the national average and continuing to climb.
We know that the level of diabetes is enormous in this region and in the state, and it's going to take some real effort, and people have to change their lifestyles, which who knows if the current generation, the one that Gene and I are part of, that we're not. How much are they going to change? How much people can still take their health into their own hands to be healthier? But certainly the generation that's coming up needs to understand what eating right, exercise, how to be healthy. I mean, we're so unhealthy right now, we're maintaining this enormous healthcare industry.
It's amazing to me, and having been in this business for 30 years now, I get kids in here, in high school, out of high school, in college, and very few of them, very few, 1 out of 100 knows anything about nutrition. They don't know what they're eating and why. They don't know what they should be eating. They don't know how to read a food label. So it's education. They haven't been taught.
Well, I think that our awareness of many things that harm us is has grown, and I don't have any quick answers. I mean, when educated people are enlightened about the dangers of secondhand smoke, their response is frequently, my rights. I'm not going. This is my right to have my way in my business, even though it affects the health directly of their employees. And so when you're up against that kind of mindset, you just have to keep educating until you get hit a critical mass.
We've been a close community for 300 years, and it hasn't changed a whole lot. We still seem to be close for the most part. And when I'm talking about the attitude of the people here, I refer mostly to health, fitness, welfare, things like that. I don't think there's emphasis placed on that here, especially in the areas of education.
People just forget what it means to be active. When I was doing a whole lot more counseling than I do now, mental health and substance abuse, I've seen people that I counseled in the Comp Care Center who came in with the early signs of depression, and we talked to them about physical activity, and we're not giving you a drug, this is your prescription. You'd be surprised at how many of them would recover and do very well just because they had a daily regimen of some walking, healthy eating, not just eating when they feel hungry, but schedule regular meals and stuff like that. I mean, your mental health will benefit as well from healthy eating and lifestyle activity.
And 25%, which was the study's percentage on I think the increase in cancer rates or whatever, there's nothing to sneeze at. That's a pretty substantial proportion. But that's the other 75% is how do we get people to be healthier? And I think that's really the challenge. And it starts at home and schools and across the board with this current generation.
When I was in school, possibly when you were in school, we had PE class, we had health class. I knew how to exercise when I got out of grade school because we did it every day. We had to do it every day. There was no notes from mother saying that my child can't exercise. And so now that most of the teachers we have in school now, maybe they weren't taught.
We know the smoking percentages are higher somehow, whether it's poverty or frustration or what was the percentage of folks who smoke in your single women in your program?
Oh,
it was huge, right?
Huge, yes. The exception was the person who didn't smoke.
Right. And why would you think that is?
I think culturally it was viewed as a stress management tool. And when you're in, they used to give it to soldiers all the time for battlefield stress relief. Then we found out that we produced more anxiety because they were worried about when they were going to get their smoke.
I'd like to think that I've changed a little bit of it in the years that I've been here and been in business. I've created a focus on exercise and health and fitness and outdoor activities as well as indoor activities, and that is a form of education. But the kids are not being taught.
There are lots of, we've come far, but we haven't come to the place where clean waters are given. Yeah. And I've always thought that air pollution and water quality was going to be, in 50 years, our technology will certainly get better, but this generation of adults choosing to stay or go is certainly influenced by where we are now as far as health concerns for your family.
The subject of clean air and clean water brings us to one of the most divisive issues in Appalachia, coal mining, especially the practice of mountaintop removal. While proponents say the practice provides needed jobs and leaves behind flat areas that can be developed, opponents say it destroys the environment. Further, recent studies from West Virginia University researcher Michael Hendricks suggest areas near mountaintop removal sites have markedly worse health.
I also think we have to rethink coal, and we will rethink coal. This isn't bashing the coal industry. Believe me, it's not bashing the coal industry.
There are all these other dependent businesses on coal mining in the region, so it really does affect the economy. And it's so expensive to develop deep mines. But having said that, you keep hearing that because of the need for power, that there is going to be a continued need for coal, deep mine coal preferably, or the coal in western Kentucky. Apparently those mines are doing pretty well right now. And we do know, even in deep mines, the technology has reached the point where they're using many fewer miners to do the same amount of work they used to do years and years ago. So in that sense, I think economically there is a tipping point. There are less people, far less people employed. I mean, I think Harlan County lost like 10,000 population in the last 10 years, and the number of miners has increased. Went down 10,000 miners in the last 2 years or so, 2 or 3 years ago. So,
when we think of coal right now, and we probably will only have this resource for about 25 years, we think of burning coal in electric power plants to create electricity. That's it. Well, if I'm not mistaken, coal is carbon-based. There must be other things we can do with coal besides burn it to produce electricity. And one of the things that really discourages me, and I think is one of the problems for coal right now, is that you see these signs on the back of windows that say, if you don't want electricity, then don't support coal, or if you do like electricity, then support coal. There's a lot of ways to produce electricity besides coal, and electric companies are not necessarily friends of coal. They're going to use whatever is the cheapest way to generate electricity. Right now it happens to be natural gas.
Yeah. I think there's a little bit of a silver lining to the cloud that's hanging over coal, in that hopefully it will allow us to get away from that debate over coal. I think coal has been so important in our region. I'm the son of a coal miner. It was so important to my family and help them prosperity. At the same time, people have fixated on that, and it's polarized debate, especially in recent years, to the point where it's either regarded as the cure to all ills, or it's regarded as the evil of all evils. And either way, we've got it's the taste great, less filling.
Years and years ago, I think Alaska started putting a percentage of their severance tax money into a fund many, many years ago to be used in the future when some of their resources had been tapped out. And I guess now there is people are finally suggesting, or they've suggested it before, but maybe somebody's taking it would have taken it more seriously if coal production hadn't gone down, is to do the same thing, is to take a percentage of severance tax money and at least create some fund for the future.
As a lot of people have this perception, if you love trees and wildlife, that you're anti-coal. Well, my daddy was a coal miner. All my clothes and my shoes and my car I drove, it was from being a coal miner. But that was back when people actually went in the hill or worked on tipples.
I don't think we're polarized on an ideological level I think the mainstream, there's sort of a consensus. If you go to Greg Stumbo, or if you go to Jeff Hoover, out in the edges of Appalachia, you'll find a lot of agreement about what you need to do to improve the area and improve the economy. But I think that, and from an intellectual standpoint, I think I think there is quite a bit of debate between university folks and the grassroots folks, and there's that schism, I think, has affected us, especially on coal. You know, the academic, more liberal establishment has viewed coal as evil and bad, and that's again affected our ability to be united, I think, on an intellectual level, on an ideological level.
There was strip mining back then, which I found, very discouraging that we would do our beautiful mountains that way. But as technology has advanced, unfortunately, the degree of, should I say, rape of our mountains has got to the point where that they just take the whole top of the mountain off. And the coal company would convince us that is creating productive land. And anyone who cares to do the research knows that this damages our water table. It's bad for our wildlife. It puts arsenic and bad metals in our water.
Whether they'll ever develop clean coal technology so that it's economically competitive with natural gas is anybody's guess. I mean, we've kind of gotten off a little bit on a tangent, but natural gas prices everybody says eventually they're going to go up. Whether they'll go up enough so that it makes clean, whether coal will once again be competitive in that economic sense, I'm not sure. But if it were, there are a fair number of there's research to be done, and there's presumably the industry could rebound somewhat. But we can talk about the environment later. I just think, it is unfortunate. We just have very few other opportunities right now here for folks who have bachelor degrees. I mean, that's the way it is.
Regardless of the path taken to get there, those interviewed all said that a vibrant, thriving future in Appalachia will only be possible through greater regional cooperation.
We have a long way to go in terms of developing a view that encourages people to participate with each other. We have a very strong and proud tradition of being independent and making it on our own. But in fact, many of these positive things come about when people come together.
I do think this regional cooperative stuff has got to happen. I don't think we can look at just what helps Prestonsburg, but what helps the communities around Prestonsburg as well. It may be that business goes to Pikeville or Paintsville, but our folks can work there.
I see the biggest need is for us to come together as Eastern Kentuckians, and I think people identify more with that. Eastern Kentucky is almost an ethnicity. It really is. People have such a strong identity with the area, but they still cling to those county boundaries and those county ways of doing business. We've got to get beyond that.
Right. Gee, we got to tear those walls down. You got to not have a barrier between Prestonsburg and Floyd County, or Prestonsburg and Martin, Prestonsburg and Wheelwright.
But all of these nonprofit organizations who want to improve life in Eastern Kentucky need to come together. We need to have a forum. We need to have a conference where the directors of the Arts Center in Prestonsburg, or the Osborne family in Haddon who have the music school, the Pikeville Friends of Art, we should all come together. Let's not just try to develop this in our little community, but let's look at Eastern Kentucky as a family. We're all in this together.
The more people you bring together to think about other solutions, because they're not in my head, maybe not in yours. If everybody had a quick fix, we would have already been there. But I think, to me, education, if we can use the Science Center, if we can keep kids engaged and do better, and always try to be a step ahead with the community colleges and giving kids an education, that's number one. And number two is trying to create a healthier population. And every little bit helps. Whether it's your farmer's market or education classes or the Relay for Life or whatever people do is going to be helpful.
You know, Eastern Kentucky and Appalachia is a homogeneous culture. You know, we have something very unique. You know, we shouldn't try to compete with each other.
And this is if there was ever a place where family and caring for yours is a part of the cultural fabric, it's here. I mean, you don't have the urban isolation of anonymity.
I mean, we need a bunch of people like Loyal Jones. You know Loyal Jones. And I've spent some time with him. He's about like Al. We need some people like that to spend time with our young folks as they begin their college careers early on, before they get their mindset on somewhere else, to really let them know that this is it's a good place to be from, and that it's prepared you to do some things, and that one of the things you have based upon your education is a responsibility to give something back.